Day 285, Maccabean Revolt, 1 Maccabees 4, Sirach 10-12, Proverbs 22 verses 9-12. Let's begin. 1 Maccabees 4. Then Gorgias took 5,000 men and 1,000 chosen horsemen, and they moved out of the camp by night, so that they might set upon the camp of the Jews and strike them suddenly. And the sons who were from the stronghold were their guides. And Judas heard of it, and he rose up, with his powerful men, to strike the force from the king's army that was in Emmaus. For the army was still dispersed from the camp. And Gorgias came by night into the camp of Judas, and found no one, and he sought them in the mountains. For he said, These men flee from us. And when it had become day, Judas appeared in the plain with only 3,000 men, who had neither armor nor swords. And they saw the strength of the camp of the Gentiles, and the men in armor, and the horsemen surrounding them, and that these were trained to fight. And Judas said to the men who were with him, Do not be afraid of their multitude, and do not dread their attack. Remember in what way salvation came to our fathers in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with a great army. And now, let us cry out to heaven, and the Lord will have mercy on us, and he will remember the covenant of our fathers, and he will crush this army before our face this day. And all nations shall know that there is one who redeems and frees Israel. And the foreigners lifted up their eyes, and they saw them coming against them. And they went out of the camp into battle, and those who were with Judas sounded the trumpet. And they came together. And the Gentiles were crushed, and they fled into the plains. But the last of them all fell by the sword, and they pursued them even to Gazara, and even to the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Jamnia. And there fell from them as many as 3,000 men. And Judas returned, with his army following him. And he said to the people, Do not desire the spoils, for there is war before us. And Gorgias and his army are near us on the mountain. But stand firm now against our enemies, and fight against them, and you shall take the spoils afterwards, securely. And while Judas was speaking these words, behold, a certain part of them appeared, looking out from the mountain. And Gorgias saw that his men were put to flight, and that they had set fire to the camp. For the smoke that he saw declared what had happened. When they had seen this, they became very afraid, seeing at the same time both Judas and his army in the plains prepared to do battle. So they all fled away into the encampment of the foreigners. And Judas returned to take the spoils of the camp, and they obtained much gold and silver, and hyacinth, and purple of the sea, and great riches. And returning, they sang a canticle, and they blessed God in heaven, because he is good, because his mercy is with every generation. And so, a great salvation occurred in Israel in that day. But those among the foreigners who escaped went and reported to Lysias all that had happened. And when he heard these things, he was discouraged, being alarmed to his very soul. For things had not occurred in Israel according to his wishes, nor as the king had commanded. And in the following year, Lysias gathered together 60,000 chosen men and 5,000 horsemen, so that he might defeat them in warfare. And they came into Judea, and they positioned their camp in Bethser, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. And they saw the strength of the army, and so he prayed, and he said, Blessed are you, Savior of Israel, who crushed the assault of the powerful by the hand of your servant David, and who delivered up the camp of the foreigners into the hand of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor-bearer. Enclose this army in the hand of your people Israel, and let them be confounded in their soldiers and their horsemen. Strike them with dread, and melt away the boldness of their strength, and let them shudder in their grief. Cast them down with the sword of those who love you, and let all who know your name praise you with hymns. And they went forth to battle, and there fell from the army of Lysias 5,000 men. But Lysias, seeing their flight and the boldness of the Jews, and that they were prepared either to live or to die with fortitude, went to Antioch and chose soldiers, so that they might come back to Judea with greater numbers. Then Judas and his brothers said, Behold, our enemies have been crushed. Let us go up now to cleanse and renew the holy places. And all the army gathered together, and they ascended to Mount Zion. And they saw the sanctuary deserted, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned, and weeds growing up in the courts, as in a forest or as on the mountains, and the adjoining chambers demolished. And they rent their garments, and they made a great wailing, and they placed ashes on their heads. And they fell to the ground on their faces, and they sounded the trumpets of alarm, and they cried out toward heaven. Then Judas numbered men to fight against those who were in the stronghold, until they had cleansed the holy places. And he chose priests without blemish, whose will held to the law of God. And they cleansed the holy places, and they took away the stones of defilement to an unclean place. And he considered the altar of holocausts, which had been profaned, as to what he should do with it. And a good counsel fell upon them, to destroy it, lest it might become a reproach to them, because the Gentiles had defiled it, so they demolished it. And they stored the stones in the mountain house, in a fitting place, until there should come a prophet, who would provide an answer about these. Then they took whole stones, according to the law, and they built a new altar, according to that which was before. And they rebuilt the holy places and the things that were in the inner parts of the temple, and they sanctified the temple and the courts. And they made new holy vessels, and they brought the lampstand, and the altar of incense, and the table into the temple. And they placed incense on the altar, and they lit the lamps, which were on the lampstand, and they gave light in the temple. And they placed the bread on the table, and they hung up the veils, and they completed all the works which they had begun. And they arose before the morning, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Kislev, in the 148th year. And they offered sacrifice, according to the law, on the new altar of holocausts that they made. According to the time and according to the day, on which the Gentiles had contaminated it, on the same day, it was renewed with canticles, and lutes, and lyres, and cymbals. And all the people fell upon their faces, and they adored, and they blessed, toward heaven, him that had prospered them. And they kept the dedication of the altar for 8 days, and they offered holocausts with joy, and sacrifices of salvation and praise. And they adorned the face of the temple with crowns of gold, and small shields. And they dedicated the gates and the adjoining chambers, and they set up doors on them. And there was very great rejoicing among the people, and the disgrace of the Gentiles was averted. And Judas, and his brothers, and all the assembly of Israel decreed that the day of the dedication of the altar must be kept in its time, from year to year, for 8 days from the 25th day of the month of Kislev, with joy and gladness. And they built up, at that time, Mount Zion, with high walls and strong towers all around, lest the Gentiles should at any time come and trample upon it, as they did before. And he stationed a garrison there, to keep it, and he fortified it, in order to guard Bethzer, so that the people might have a fortification opposite the face of Idumea. Sirach 10-12. A wise judge will judge his people, and the leadership of an understanding man will be steadfast. As the judge of the people is, so also are his assistants. And whatever kind of man the ruler of a city is, of such a kind also are those who live in it. A foolish king will be the ruin of his people, for cities will be inhabited through the understanding of those with power. Power over the earth is in the hand of God, and in due time, he will raise up a helpful leader over the earth. The prosperity of a man is in the hand of God, and he will place his honor above the face of the scribe. You should forget all injury done to you by your neighbor, and you should do nothing among the works of injury. Arrogance is hateful in the sight of God and of men, and all iniquity among the nations is abominable. A kingdom is transferred from one people to another because of injustices, and injuries, and contempt, and every kind of deceit. But nothing is more wicked than a greedy man. Why should that which is earth and ashes be arrogant? There is nothing more iniquitous than to love money. For such a one has sold even his own soul. For in his life, he casts aside his innermost being. All power is of short life. A prolonged sickness is of grave concern to a physician. A physician causes a sickness to be shortened. So also, a king is here today, and tomorrow he will die. For when a man dies, he will inherit serpents, and wild beasts, and worms. The beginning of the arrogance of man is apostasy from God. for his heart has withdrawn from the one who made him. For arrogance is the beginning of all sin. Whoever holds to it will be filled with evil words, and it will overthrow him in the end. Because of this, the Lord has dishonored the gatherings of the evil, and he has destroyed them, even unto the end. God has destroyed the seats of arrogant leaders, and he has caused the meek to be seated in their place. The roots of arrogant nations God has dried up, and the humble among these nations he has planted. The Lord has overthrown the lands of the Gentiles, and he has utterly destroyed them, even to their foundation. He has dried up some of them, and he has utterly destroyed them, and he has caused their memory to depart from the earth. God has abolished the memory of the arrogant, and he has left behind only the memory of those who are humble in mind. Arrogance was not created for men, nor was an angry temperament created for the gender of women. Those who fear God among the offspring of men will be honored. But those among the offspring who ignore the commandments of the Lord will be dishonored. In the midst of his brothers, a ruler has honor, and those who fear the Lord will have honor in his eyes. The fear of God is the glory of the wealthy, and of the honorable, and of the poor. Do not choose to despise a just man who is poor, and do not choose to magnify a sinful man who is rich. The great man, and the judge, and the powerful have honor, but no one is greater than he who fears God. Those who are free will serve an understanding servant, and a prudent and disciplined man will not murmur at correction, but an ignorant man will not be honored. Do not choose to extol yourself in doing your work, and do not be unproductive during the time of distress. He who works, and so abounds in all things, is better than he who boasts, and so lacks bread. Son, preserve your soul in meekness, and give it honor according to its merit. Who will justify one who sins in his soul? And who will honor one who dishonors his soul? The poor man is glorified by his discipline and fear, and there is a man who is honored because of his substance. But if someone is glorified in poverty, how much more in substance? And whoever is glorified in substance, let him fear poverty. The wisdom of one who is humble will exalt his head, and will cause him to sit down in the midst of great men. You should not praise a man for his beauty, and you should not despise a man for his appearances. The bee is small among flying things, but its fruit holds the summit of sweetness. You should not glory in clothing at any time, and you should not let yourself be extolled in the day of your honor. For the works of the Most High alone are wondrous, and glorious and hidden and unseen are his works. Many tyrants have sat upon a throne, and one whom no one would admire has worn a diadem. Many powerful men have been powerfully cast down, and the illustrious have been handed over into the hands of others. Before you inquire, you should not place blame on anyone, and when you have inquired, reprove justly. Before you listen, you should not respond a word, and you should not interrupt in the middle of a discourse. You should not contend in a matter which does not concern you, and you should not sit in judgment together with sinners. Son, you should not be involved in many matters. And if you become rich, you will not be free from transgression. For if you pursue, you will not apprehend, and if you run ahead, you will not escape. There is an impious man who labors and hurries and grieves, but all the more will he be without abundance. There is a debilitated man in need of recovery, who is lacking in strength and abundant in poverty. Yet the eye of God has looked with favor upon him for his benefit, and he has lifted him up from his humiliation, and he has exalted his head. And many have wondered at him, and they have honored God. Good things and misfortune, life and death, poverty and wealth, are from God. Wisdom, and discipline, and knowledge of the law are with God. Love and the ways of good things are with him. Error and darkness have been created by sinners, and those who exult in evil grow old in evil. The gift of God remains with the just man, and his advancement will have success unto eternity. There is one who is enriched by spending sparingly, and this is the extent of his reward. About this, he says, I have found rest for myself, and now I alone will eat from my goods. But he does not know how much time will pass before death approaches, and then he must leave everything behind to others and die. Stand fast in your covenant, and become familiar with it, and grow old in the work of your commandments. You should not spend time in the works of sinners. Instead, trust in God and remain in your own place. For it is easy, in the eyes of God, to make a pauper suddenly rich. The blessing of God hurries to reward the just man, and in a fleeting hour his advancement bears fruit. You should not say, "What do I need?" or "What good will there be for me in this?" You should not say, "I have enough for myself," or "What could be worse than this?" In a day of good things, you should not be forgetful of misfortunes. And in a day of misfortunes, you should not be forgetful of good things. For it is easy, in the sight of God, on the day of one's passing, to repay each one according to his ways. The affliction of an hour causes one to forget great delights, and in the end of a man is the uncovering of his works. You should not praise any man before death. For a man is known by his children. You should not bring every man into your house. For many are the snares of the deceitful. For as a stomach with a bad smell vomits, and as a partridge is led into a cage, and like a deer led into a snare, so also is the heart of the arrogant. And it is like a bystander watching his neighbor fall. For it lies in ambush, and then turns good into evil, and it will place the blame on the elect. From one spark, a great fire grows, and from one deceitful man, much blood flows. But a very sinful man lies in ambush for blood. Pay close attention to yourself before a harmful man, for he fabricates evils. Otherwise, he may lead over you a whispered reproach unceasingly. Receive a stranger to yourself, and he will overthrow you with a whirlwind, and he will alienate you from what is your very own. If you do good, know to whom you do it, and there will be many thanks for your good deeds. Do good to the just, and you will find great recompense, and if not from him, certainly from the Lord. For there is no good for someone who is always occupied in evil, or who does not give alms. For the Most High holds hatred for sinners, but he takes pity on the repentant. Give to the merciful, and you should not assist the sinner. For the impious and the sinner will be repaid with the vengeance being held for them on the day of retribution. Give to the good, but you should not receive from a sinner. Do good to the humble, but you should not give to the impious. Withhold your bread, do not give it to him, otherwise he may overpower you with it. For you will find twice the evil for all the good you will have done to him. For the Most High also holds hatred for sinners, and he will repay vengeance to the impious. A friend will not be known in good times, and an enemy will not be hidden in adversity. By the good fortune of a man, his enemies are grieved, and by his misfortune, a friend is revealed. You should never trust your enemy, for his wickedness rusts like a brass pot. And if he humbles himself and goes about bowed down, increase your alertness and guard yourself from him. You should not sit down anywhere near him, nor should you allow him to sit at your right hand, lest perhaps he may turn toward your place, and seek your seat, and then, in the very end, you would understand my words and be stung by my sermon. Who will take pity on an enchanter struck by a serpent, or on someone who draws near to wild beasts? And so it is with one who keeps company with an iniquitous man and is involved in his sins. For 1 hour, he will abide with you. But if you begin to turn aside, he will not permit it. An enemy speaks sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he waits in ambush, so that he may throw you into a pit. An enemy has tears in his eyes. But if he finds an opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. And if misfortunes happen upon you, you will find him there first. An enemy has tears in his eyes, but while pretending to help you, he will dig under your feet. He will shake his head, and clap his hands, and whisper much, and change his expression. Proverbs 22 verses 9 through 12. Whoever is inclined to mercy shall be blessed, for from his bread he has given to the poor. Whoever gives gifts will acquire victory and honor, but he carries away the soul of the receiver. Cast out the one who ridicules, and conflict will go out with him, and accusations and insults will cease. Whoever loves cleanness of heart, because of the grace of his lips, will have the king as his friend. The eyes of the Lord watch over knowledge, and the words of the iniquitous are supplanted.